Welcome back. We're now on to Chapter 28, The Wind Temple Encounter. Bree didn't realize that she had fallen asleep. When Shen woke her an hour later, she felt disoriented. She sat up suddenly and got her bearings. She was in the same alcove she had woken up in when she first came to Goal. Shen stood near the altar, smiling. "How is she?" she asked, blinking more than usual. "She will be fine," Shen replied. She was touched by dark ethereal magic from a ghost or a demon. Matron? Shen nodded. If Matron remained in her too much longer, she would have died. Thankfully you saved her wand, however it's broken and useless. So she will not heal as quickly as we wanted her to. Her magic will fade and she will be powerless. Bree sighed. Are there no other wands? Shen sat on the altar beside her. The fairies do have a legend of the Morgana wand, a powerful wand from one of the first fairies. The story of its location has changed over the years, but the most common thought is that it resides in the Wind Tower. There are legends of other fairy artifacts like crowns and whatnot scattered all over Goal, but the wand is the most important artifact from Morgana. Bree jumped off the altar and adjusted her clothing. Then the Wind Tower is where Blaze and I will go next. It's a 4 or 5 day journey to there. Bree raised her arm and showed Shen the Vitarian bracelet. I found this in Ghost Town where Odiana was hurt. With it, I can teleport anywhere in Goal. Shen slowly lowered himself off the altar and approached Bree. Please be careful with any mystic items. They are full of magic that can be tracked by anyone with magic powers, including Zerum. Bree nodded and walked out of the room. She saw where the fairies were gathered and approached them. Odiana was laying on a bed of rose petals with fairy dust falling on her continuously. She looked peaceful, and that worried Bree. She kissed her own hand and then placed it on Odiana's head. Take care, she said. We'll be back with the wand. Blaze had been laying by the fountain and now walked over. What wand? The Morgana wand. Upon hearing the name, all the fairies gasped and looked at Bree. They started chattering quickly, the tingling noise getting louder and louder with each movement. Morgana's wand? I will find it. I promise. For Odie. They continued to chatter as Bree stepped away and checked her supplies. She was about to toss the quiver away since she had no bow, but changed her mind as she hoped to finally find another bow on her journey. She looked to Blaze and smiled. Ready? He nodded, and she crouched down, placing her hand on his fur. She reached over and touched the second symbol. The triangle pointed upward with a line through the top. There was a familiar pull, and they transported from the fairy temple to the rock platform on the side of the mountain. Blaze staggered away from her and began heaving a bit, but didn't throw up this time. You're getting better at this, Bree exclaimed. Sure if you say so, Blaze answered weakly. Oh no, I left my backpack at the fairy temple in the altar room. Blaze sat carefully and took some deep breaths. We can get it back after we finish the Wind Tower. She nodded and looked up the stairs to her right. It was turning to dusk, but she could still see the path up to the Wind Tower of Ayu. The wind symbols were still clear on each step. She began her climb, Blaze close behind. At the top was a large archway that directed them down a short path to a stone courtyard surrounding the tower. The path they were on crossed the courtyard to the stairs that led up to a large door on the side of the tower. As they entered the courtyard, a commotion on their right caught their attention. 4 people on horses were patrolling the grounds. The closest one noticed Bree and Blaze and called out to the others. The farthest one blew on a horn that directed his horse toward the others. Soon there was a rumbling from the distance, and a small battalion of warriors on horses came from either side of the courtyard. Bree and Blaze were trapped in between the two groups, and although they felt nervous, they had no desire to run away. As a precaution, she took out the mystic sword hilt, but did not extend the blade. Once the battalion stopped their approach, a strange silence filled the area. Bree stood so she could see both groups with a slight turn of her head. Who are you? She asked. The group on her left parted, and 2 people on horses slowly came forward. The first man was nearly bald, with a stern look on his face and intense eyes. The second man was hidden underneath a dark cloak. Attached to the side of his horse was a gnarled staff with a dark jewel on the top. Hello, Bree, the first man said. His voice was raspy and had a strange accent, yet it was sharp and precise. Nice to finally meet you. My name is Reagan. He smiled wide, and Bree grimaced at how bad his teeth looked. She looked from Reagan to the cloaked figure on his right. If you're Reagan, that makes you Zerum? She asked. Reagan clapped a few times. Very good. You've been well educated on our people. A few moments of silence passed between them before Bree spoke again. "You're here to stop me from entering the tower." Regan shook his head. "No, I'm not. I'm here to talk." Bree could feel Zerum staring at her with great intensity, even though she couldn't see his face. "I don't want to talk. I need to get into the tower to get a magical weapon that can help my friend who's hurt." "Very noble. Why don't you go into the tower, get your weapon, maybe even restore the element of wind, and then come back out and have a chat with me?" Regan's voice made Bree's skin crawl. "How do I know you'll let me and Blaze pass into the tower safely?" Regan chuckled, and it made Bree grimace again. "You misunderstand me. You can go into the tower alone. The dog stays out here to make sure you don't escape without paying us a visit before you go." Two of the four pirates Bree had saw when she first entered the courtyard approached Blaze and stood on either side of him. Blaze growled, ridging his back hair and made his feathers glow. Bree raised her hand to calm him. "No, Blaze. I'll do it." Blaze stopped growling. "Hurry. Odiana needs that wand." Bree nodded and turned to face Regan. "You won't harm him?" she asked. "You have my word, little lady," he said, sounding like a snake. "Your word means nothing to me." Zerum shifted in his saddle and then dismounted. "Then you have my word," he hissed, his voice sounding like an echo. He removed his staff and aimed it at Regan. "I'll keep him and the others in check." Bree looked from Regan to Zerum. "That isn't much better, but it'll do." After hesitating for only a moment, Bree approached the stairs and began her climb into the tower. Doo-doo-doo.